The drama begins with Yu Mi-ri, a very hard-working woman who is about to get married. Because she is so dedicated, she ends up organizing almost the entire wedding by herself. Vendors, invitations, payments, everything. She even buys the engagement ring with her own money, convinced that she is building a stable future with the man she loves. The problem is that her fiancé is nowhere near that level of seriousness. He's always making excuses to go out, disappear, and secretly cheat on her. Mi-ri doesn't suspect anything at first, because she trusts him and because she's too busy trying to make the wedding perfect. But the truth hits her like a bucket of cold water when she takes some boxes to the house where they are supposedly going to live after getting married. In that house, she finds an earring that isn't hers. Then, when she checks the bed, she sees a long hair that doesn't belong to her either. Her heart sinks, but she doesn't stop at a hunch. She investigates calmly, connects the dots, confirms the obvious, and decides to confront him. He reacts the way people with a guilty conscience usually do. He pretends to be surprised, invents ridiculous explanations, and swears that it's all a misunderstanding. Mi-ri still loves him, so she tries to give him one last chance. She asks him for something simple so she can put the matter to rest, to check his phone. The man would rather break the phone than show it to her. That gesture makes everything crystal clear. Not only was he unfaithful, he's also willing to destroy evidence just to avoid taking responsibility. Mi-ri fills with rage, cuts him off immediately, and leaves with her dignity wounded, but firm. And as if that weren't enough, sometime later the biggest trap is revealed. They were already legally married. The only thing missing was the ceremony. In other words, it wasn't just cancel the wedding, but get a divorce. Mi-ri feels like life has tripped her twice, because in that marriage the one who really invested was her. Her mom lent them money to buy an apartment, and now Mi-ri doesn't know how to tell her that everything fell apart. While Mi-ri carries the weight of shame and debt, her ex lives as if he had won. He's happy with his lover, planning trips and acting as if he were the victim. Mi-ri, on the other hand, is left alone in the city and sometimes vents however she can, trying not to fall apart in front of others. The next blow comes before she has even recovered from the previous one. The police knock on her door and inform her that the man who sold them the apartment was a con artist. In short, her mother's loan money is gone. Mi-ri freezes. Desperate, she calls her ex, because even though she hates him, they are still legally tied and he was part of the deal. But he washes his hands of it and tells her to figure it out on her own. Mi-ri breaks down, and that night she drinks to try to shut off the noise in her head. In the middle of her drunkenness, she calls her mother, because her mom insists on going to take food to the in-laws, and Mi-ri tries to stop her so she won't find out about the humiliation yet. Then, on her way home, staggering, an accident happens. A car runs her over. The driver is Kim Ao-yu, heir to the biggest bakery in the country, a legendary company that has been #1 for decades. Ao-yu lives under pressure. His grandmother wants him or his cousin to take control, and any mistake becomes ammunition within the family. That night, however, he only sees a wounded, out-of-control woman. He tries to help her and even thinks about giving her money so she won't make a scene. But Mi-ri is so confused that, when she hears his name, she mixes it up with her ex's. Instead of thanking him, she pushes him, hits him and clings to him like a leech, demanding that he give back the money her mom lent. Ao-yu doesn't understand anything. He just wants to escape the drama, but Mi-ri gets into his car and swears she won't get out until he takes responsibility. Ao-yu manages to get her out, but Mi-ri falls onto a cactus and ends up full of spines. That's when she finally lets out a huge cry, one of those that has months of pain behind it. Woo-ju, even though he's fed up, can't just leave her there. He takes her to the hospital, pays what's needed, and, when they remove the spines, she wants to leave quickly because she has no money. Ao-yu sees her so fragile that he decides to drive her home so she doesn't end up in trouble in the streets. On the way he complains about the smell of alcohol and asks her not to talk so much. But at dawn they stop to watch the sunrise. That strange moment quiets some of Mi-ri's chaos. She breathes, calms down, and promises herself she won't give up. With or without her ex, with or without an apartment, she's going to get back up. Shortly after, an announcement appears. A construction company says it will raffle off a luxury house valued at $5 million, supposedly for a newlywed couple. In reality, the drawing is rigged so the house ends up in the hands of the mayor's son, in exchange for favors. But fate steps in. The CEO who draws the ticket makes a mistake and grabs Mi-ri's, because it was folded the same way as his. Thus, Mi-ri ends up the winner. When she finds out, she almost faints. That house would be the perfect way out. Sell it, pay off her mother's debt, and start over. The problem is that the prize requires the winner to be a newlywed, and Mi-ri is about to get divorced. Since she is still legally listed as married, She decides not to file for divorce yet. Her plan is to hold on, collect the prize, sell, and then finally close the marriage. But since the house was supposed to go to the mayor's son, the man in charge of fixing the blunder is Mr. Beck, someone who always ends up cleaning up powerful people's messes. Beck receives clear orders. He has to take the prize away from Miri no matter how. That's why he pressures her with a condition. If she wants the house, she has to show up with her husband. If she goes alone, she gets nothing. Miri tries to contact her ex, but he's out of the country with his lover and ignores her. Desperate, she remembers the stranger who helped her the night of the accident and looks for him. His name is Ao Yu, and on top of that, it was his name she confused with her ex's. Miri proposes a deal, that he pretend to be her husband for just one day, to collect the prize. She avoids giving him details for fear he'll ask for half, so she offers him money for the favor. Ao Yu suspects she's doing something shady. He thinks Miri wants to use him to scam the real husband, so he refuses. But Miri insists, and he ends up agreeing with one idea in mind. He'll go, yes, but if he finds out she's playing dirty, he'll expose her. Ao Yu thinks he's walking into a small scam. He has no idea how big it will get. That same day, Ao Yu shows up at the bakery as the new marketing manager. Grandma put him there because sales have dropped and the succession war is heating up. His cousin also wants to be the heir, so he leaves a mess prepared for Ao Yu to trip over from day one. Everything turns into a silent competition. Reputation, numbers, leadership. To make things worse, the design company that works with the bakery is connected to Miri. Ao Yu's cousin calls Miri and, with bad intentions, tells her that the packaging is worth a lot and that she should charge 10 times more. Miri, buried in debt and desperate for money, falls into the trap. Then Ao Yu is forced to meet with her to negotiate. When they see each other, both freeze. They didn't expect to cross paths again in such a serious context. In the meeting, in front of the team, they act as if they don't know each other to avoid gossip. Miri agrees to lower the price a bit, but asks to speak with Ao Yu in private. There she reveals the real issue. She needs him to be her husband for a day or she'll lose the prize. Ao Yu says no. Miri, in survival mode, makes it clear that if he refuses, the contract gets more expensive and the bakery loses money. On top of that, Ao Yu doesn't want to disappoint his grandmother with a scandal in his first month. In the end, he agrees. The day of the ceremony arrives. Ao Yu wants to go in, sign and run out. He knows that if they get caught, they could be accused of fraud. Even so, he acts like a loving husband because Beck and the executives are watching them. To make matters worse, the construction company's CEO adds another condition. They must take part in an advertising campaign as the ideal couple. Ao Yu panics, because someone from his company could recognize him. So he makes up a contagious illness and gets permission to wear a mask, so no one sees his face clearly. In the end, Miri receives the keys and feels like she can finally breathe. But Beck delivers the final blow. For the transfer to be official, the couple has to live together for 3 months. On top of that, he lives right across the street, so he plans to keep an eye on them. Ao Yu is furious, because he agreed to a one-day favor, not cohabitation. Miri turns pale, because if she loses the house, she'll be out on the street. Ao Yu tries to wriggle out of it, says the place is far from work and that he'll only drop by now and then, but Beck doesn't negotiate. He demands that they truly live together. Ao Yu tells Miri that this has gotten out of control and that he doesn't want to be part of such a big lie. Miri answers with the harshest truth. She has nowhere to go. Ao Yu leaves angry, but then guilt weighs on him. He calls her to apologize, even though he still isn't convinced about staying. The dangers of being a couple start immediately. One night Ao Yu almost runs into his family while Beck is snooping around. Miri goes into camouflage mode and hides anywhere she can, even ending up inside a doghouse. She loses her phone while fleeing and Ao Yu's aunt picks it up. Miri would rather lose the phone than be discovered, but a call comes in and she has no choice but to show herself. To get out of it, she acts half crazy and manages to make the aunt leave quickly. In parallel, the doctor who looks after Grandma appears, a close friend of the family. The doctor has been in love with Ao Yu for a long time and sends him signals, but he doesn't pick up on them or doesn't want to. Grandma, excited, decides to push that relationship. She would love for the doctor to become her granddaughter-in-law. Inside the company, the drama turns dark. An accountant discovers that someone is diverting a lot of money to a shell company in the United States. The vice director asks him to keep quiet, saying they'll investigate secretly. The accountant trusts him. That same night, the vice director offers him an energy drink to calm him down, but it's laced with a sleeping pill. The accountant falls asleep while driving and dies in an accident. The official story is suspicious, but the culprit arranges everything so it looks like bad luck. Mi-ri, meanwhile, still has no money and no real home. She looks for help, calls a friend, but the friend is in the military and can't take her in. With no options, Mi-ri ends up in a cheap motel while she looks for a place to live. It's uncomfortable and reminds her how alone she is. One night, Ao-yu goes to drop her off and thinks the manager is being creepy. He causes a scene and, even though it was all a misunderstanding, they end up getting kicked out. With no alternative, Ao-yu offers to let her sleep in the prize house until she can find something better. The pressure on Beck increases, because his boss and the construction company's CEO threaten him. If he doesn't get the house back, he'll pay for it. Beck decides to make surprise visits and demands that the husband be present. Mi-ri gets nervous because she doesn't want to keep asking Woo-ju for favors, but she also can't afford to lose. To reinforce the lie, Ao-yu agrees to be around more, even though every extra minute feels like a noose tightening around his neck. One night, a glitch in the smart house turns on lights all over the place and Beck shows up to check on things. He notices that almost everything seems to belong to Mi-ri and asks why the husband isn't there. Mi-ri improvises. She says he's very busy, but that he'll move in soon. To keep the lie going, Ao-yu leaves clothes and belongings in the house and agrees to spend more time there. To lower suspicions, they take photos as newlyweds. Sometimes they act so well that they confuse themselves. At the studio, someone from the company who could recognize Woo-ju shows up, and Mi-ri suddenly kisses him to distract her. They get out of it, but the atmosphere stays strange. What started out as acting now feels a little too real. The dead accountant's case starts to loom over everything. Grandma feels that something doesn't add up, but the vice director manipulates her. He makes up a story that the accountant was addicted to gambling and caused losses. Since he can't defend himself anymore, Grandma believes him. At a family dinner, Ao-yu's aunt mentions the accountant's accident and compares it to Woo-ju's father's death, also in a crash. Ao-yu is shaken. That night he remembers his childhood. The accident happened on his birthday, and from then on his family stopped celebrating it, as if joy were forbidden. One day, Mi-ri wishes Ao-yu a happy birthday without knowing it's the date his parents died. She cooks for him as a thank you, and that gesture touches him more than he lets on. On the way they see a rainbow and jokingly talk about wishes. Mi-ri wishes for success so she can pay her debt. Woo-ju, without saying it out loud, wishes to stay close to her. The now ex-prometido infiel reappears in the city and by chance, almost sees Mi-ri with Woo-ju. Mi-ri starts to panic. Ao-yu suggests getting ahead of it and talking to the ex, even sharing the prize to avoid threats. But Mi-ri knows her ex. She's sure he'll try to blackmail her to get more. She'd rather lose everything than depend on him again. Meanwhile, karma blows up in the ex-prometido infiel's face. He discovers that his lover is cheating on him too. He follows her, sees her with another man and is shattered. Now he feels what Mi-ri felt. Devastated, he calls Mi-ri again to apologize and ask for another chance, as if everything could be erased with tears. Mi-ri cuts him off cold. She no longer wants to go back into the same cycle. In another scene, Mi-ri's mother forgets her wallet in Woo-ju's car. When Ao-yu goes to return it, he finds a picture of Mi-ri as a child. He freezes. She is the little girl he met at the police station, the one who gave him her toys so he wouldn't feel alone. That was his first crush. Ao-yu understands that fate has given him a second chance and decides not to waste it. From then on, he makes up excuses to talk to Mi-ri, and behind the facade of coordinating the lie, he looks for real time with her. Grandma sets up a date between Ao-yu and the doctor, hoping they'll become a couple. The doctor wants to confess her feelings, but Ao-yu shows up distracted and tells her that he has reunited with his first love. He also admits that in high school he tried to look for her, but didn't knock on the door because he overheard painful comments about Mi-ri's father's death and felt guilty. The doctor, afraid that this will blow up, suggests that he not reveal the truth to Mi-ri. That suggestion lights a bomb. Later, the doctor approaches Mi-ri and, to protect Woo-ju, tells her that Ao-yu is helping her out of debt and guilt, not love. Mi-ri is stunned. She feels she got her hopes up alone, that it was all an emotional loan, and decides to go back to her hometown to breathe. The doctor regrets what she said and runs to tell Woo-ju. Woo-ju, angry and desperate, goes after Mi-ri. In the village, Mi-ri and Ao-yu sit down to talk without masks. She confirms that she doesn't blame him for her father's death, and that she doesn't want him to live with guilt. Ao-yu admits that he kept the stuffed toys she gave him when they were kids and finally says what he feels. He helped her because he really likes her. Mi-ri believes him, the weight lifts off her chest, and they end up sharing a kiss that is no longer an act. As it gets late, Ao-yu spends the night at Mi-ri's house. Miri's mother welcomes him happily because she likes him and sees him as respectful. That night, Yu calls out, scared by an insect in his room, and Miri teases him. Then they're almost caught and end up hiding under the covers, hugged and nervous. The next day, Mom cooks and jokes about a wedding, as if she had already adopted him. Before they go back, Yu goes with Miri to visit her father's grave. Silently, he gives thanks for their paths crossing. Afterwards they go to the beach and Miri decides she no longer wants to keep lying. She wants to tell Beck the truth and face the consequences. Yu promises to support her. Back in the city, the ex-prometido infiel does some digging and finds out that Yu is not just any employee. He's the heir. He goes into revenge mode, wanting to destroy him to win Miri back. First he tries to report him with a letter, but the guards throw him out. Then he finds out that Miri still hasn't filed the divorce papers and, therefore, they're technically still married. With that in hand, he threatens, if Miri doesn't stay away from Wuju, he'll report them for fraud. Miri is scared, not for herself, but for the scandal that could blow up around Wuju's company. Yu finds out that the ex has picked up their scent and understands why Miri is pulling away. Miri, exhausted, confronts the ex-prometido infiel and makes it clear she doesn't love him and won't go back. He tries to blackmail her and then uses tears and promises to manipulate her, but it no longer works. When the ex loses control, Yu shows up, stops him and warns him that if he wants trouble, he should take it up with him. The ex-prometido infiel leaves defeated. Shortly after, there's an important event at the company where Yu wants to introduce Miri to his grandmother officially. Miri is nervous because grandma hates lies. And, as if life wanted to throw in one last test, Beck shows up and discovers that Yu is the president of the bakery's grandson. At that moment, he connects the dots. Miri is not the real wife and the cohabitation was a setup. Beck is ready to report them for fraud, but the doctor stops him with a video showing a bribe to the mayor. That's more serious, so Beck agrees to stay quiet, though he makes it clear he won't forget what he saw. In parallel, the vice director speeds up his plan. He confesses to grandma that he diverted money and manipulated the accountant's death, and then tries to finish the job by switching her medicine. Grandma survives, but is left in serious condition. With her no longer in charge, audits arrive, investors get nervous and an investor shows up demanding immediate payments. She's actually the vice director's secret wife, part of the plan to force the company's sale. Yu investigates in secret. With Miri's help, he discovers that the investor has another name, a child and clear ties to the vice director. Even so, they're missing one definitive piece of evidence, so they set a trap. They spread the rumor that grandma woke up. The vice director panics and sends his secret wife, disguised as a nurse, to try to finish the job. The police are already waiting and arrest her. The vice director plays the victim and says he was manipulated, but Yu records a conversation where he incriminates himself. On top of that, Yu's cousin produces evidence he has kept for years. Yu visits the detained woman and shows her how the vice director is denying her. Thinking of her son, she decides to talk and hands over proof she had saved in case he ever betrayed her. With that evidence, the harshest truth comes out. The accident that killed Yu's parents was staged. The vice director wanted the company, and when Yu's father discovered his infidelity and confronted him, he decided to get rid of them. It also comes to light that he bribed the prosecutor to close the case. With everything reopened, the vice director can no longer hide. The family falls apart, especially Wuju's aunt, who spent years blaming him and defending her husband. She asks for forgiveness and blames herself for everything. Yu decides to forgive her, not because it doesn't hurt, but because he doesn't want to keep living tied to the past. He goes to his parents' grave, promises them that justice has been done and, in that moment, introduces Miri as his partner. Miri promises to take care of Yu lovingly, not replacing anyone, but walking beside him. Beck changes too. Tired of paying for other people's sins, he confesses the construction company's corruption and lets the CEO face the consequences. Beck says goodbye to the orphanage where he grew up and decides to get away from that abusive family that manipulated him since he was young. The doctor supports him and, over time, the two of them grow truly closer. They end up messaging, going out and building a calm relationship, now free of emotional debts. As for the prize house, Beck is exhausted and doesn't want to keep pushing that farce. When Yu and Miri tell him the full truth, Beck has already resigned himself and simply tells them to go live their life. The house is returned and Miri is left without that lifeline, but for the first time she feels light. There is no longer a lie tightening around her neck. Miri decides to close the legal chapter and finally files for divorce. Now she really is free. The ex-prometido infiel makes one last move. He announces a press conference to reveal the heir's dark secret. But it backfires. The company sues him for defamation and damages, and he doesn't even have a job anymore to support himself. He is left alone, with the shame of having burned the last bridge he had. Miri sees him defeated and, although she doesn't forgive him, she asks him to let go. She tells him that, out of respect for the little good that existed, the best thing is to end things in peace and each go their own way. When everything seems to be falling into place, another obstacle appears. The ex-prometido Infiel's mother, out of envy, runs to tell Aoyu's grandmother an exaggerated version of the story to paint Miri as a gold digger. Grandma turns cold and doesn't want to see her. Miri finds out and feels discouraged. One night she overhears Aoyu talking with Grandma and thinks they're asking him to leave her. She walks away alone, sad, convinced that once again she's the one who has to lose. But reality was different. Aoyu wasn't begging them to accept Miri. He was talking about succession. His cousin resigned to devote himself to video games, so the only heir left is Wooju, and he feels overwhelmed. He asks Grandma to reconsider the pressure and give him a bit of time. When Aoyu catches up with Miri and explains, she feels relieved, but she also understands the weight he carries. In that same moment, Aoyu decides he no longer wants half measures. He proposes to Miri, calmly and confidently, like someone who finally knows what he wants. Miri goes blank for a second, but says yes. And the best part is that this time they don't have to buy the ring out of obligation. This time the gesture comes from love, not necessity. Miri meets Grandma face to face and, for the first time, without hiding anything. She tells her story simply: how she worked, how she made a mistake by trusting, how she got back up, and how she's not after money. Grandma admits she has already investigated her. She sent people to the village to talk to Miri's mother and confirm the facts. After confirming that Miri comes from an honest family and is not a fortune hunter, Grandma approves the relationship, although she asks them to go step by step because of Wooju's position. Over time, the family reorganizes. Aoyu adapts to his new role, his cousin steps back from the competition and finally supports him, and Miri goes back to focusing on her work with more confidence. Miri's sister goes viral on social media, her mom builds up her business with pride, and life feels less heavy. Beck follows his own path, the doctor also finds peace, and the ex-prometido Infiel learns to live with the consequences. In the end, Aoyu and Miri prepare their real wedding, without lies and without games. Miri learns to put herself first, to not carry alone what should be shared. Aoyu learns to love without guilt, without thinking that everything good has to be paid for with pain. And although the story began with betrayal, it ended with a new opportunity. Two people who found each other in the most chaotic moment and still decided to build something clean. End of the drama.